Gentleman yields back. Now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Carvajal, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Secretary Rollins.
Thank you.
First of all, let me just say thank you for seeing the light and reopening the 8 out of the 9 USDA offices in California that you closed and then realized it was creating a lot of chaos for many of our farmers and would have a really negative impact. You've reopened those, and I want to thank you for that. I represent the Central Coast of California, where agriculture is the #1 industry, and a wide range of specialty crops are grown. When I meet with growers back in my district, one of the major issues they mention is the labor shortage. I'm sure you're aware the administration has intensified its deportation efforts, which have created significant fear and uncertainty within California's agriculture labor force. In fact, yesterday, a farm bureau in my district publicly voiced concerns over the impact of these enforcement actions. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to submit for the record the Ventura County Farm Bureau statement, if I may do so.
Without objection.
I'm going to give you that. Secretary, given the uncertainty of this immigration climate as it relates to agriculture labor, what specific steps is the Department of Agriculture taking to support both farmers and their workforce?
Well, thank you. And let me be clear. I think it was a lease confusion with GSA. I don't think it was a USDA question, but neither here nor there. I'm glad those offices are open for our farmers again. The labor question is a significant one. It is one that is perhaps maybe not the very top of the list, but for some they would say the very top of the list. We feel it. I mentioned earlier that in Texas, the citrus producers on the Texas side of the border on average pay labor $23 if they can even get the labor. On the other side, at the Mexican border, it's $2 an hour. This is unsustainable, and our ag community cannot continue to do what they need to do under the current effort. Clearly, the president has a vision that I support of ensuring that we've got legal immigrants in this country. But he also recognizes, I spoke with him this morning and yesterday, the shortages in the labor market, especially in the agriculture community. On April the 10th, at our second or third cabinet meeting, he spoke in front of the cameras on this and said to Lori Chavez DeRimmer, also herself from a farming background from Oregon, but also California farming roots, our labor secretary, in concert and partnership with this committee and Congress, we have to fix the H-2A program and ensure that we can make certain that these producers have the labor that they need to feed not only America but the world.
Thank you. Well, they're creating a lot of fear and uncertainty, and a lot of this limited workforce is quite frankly not showing up to harvest our farms. Just yesterday, we had some immigration raids on some of the farms that are within my district, thus the statement that I just submitted. Secretary, I know some of my colleagues here today have brought up the issue with H-2A, and during your testimony before the House Agriculture Appropriations Subcommittee last month, you mentioned that you were working with the Department of Labor and the White House to reform the H-2A program. Can you provide an update on the progress of those efforts, and with the administration's support, the bipartisan legislation such as the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which is one bipartisan? Secretary DeRimmer was one of the co-authors of that, and I want to just draw that to your attention. One, would you support that? And which of your awareness, for your awareness, current Secretary of Labor DeRimmer, again, is a co-sponsor, and I would appreciate your response to that.
Well, clearly the real reform has to come from Congress. I mean, I don't mean to pass the buck. That is not it at all. But I have had lots of conversations. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this without congressional authorization? To your point, I think that the leadership currently, our administration realizes the significant challenges and are open and welcome to trying to help however we can to solve that, including the president. So I will continue that effort. Now, within the Labor Department with Lori Chavez DeRimmer, she is very focused on this issue. We have met about it multiples of times. I think you'll be hearing more about that very, very soon. But you have our commitment. We're doing everything we can to work to solve for that as much as we can.
Thank you. Can you explain how proposed cuts to nutrition programs like TFAP and SNAP benefit growers, especially when it's farmers who produce the fruits and vegetables for these programs?
Well, so on the one hand, you're talking about the food bank programs. On the other, you're talking about SNAP. So I will talk about SNAP first. We spend at just USDA across 16 nutrition programs about $400 million a day on those nutrition programs. That's just alone. By any given number, up to 30% of that is fraud, waste, and abuse. At this time of unemployment, we were at 17 million, we're now at 42 million people on the SNAP program. So there is a lot of room to do better. And that's
I'm
what
out
we're
of
gonna
time,
do.
but let me just say, fraud is 1% or less. That is
Sir, that is not the
absolutely
case.
false. So I just want you to know.
Gentlemen's
We
time
can't even get
you
the
are
data.
Has
falsifying
expired.
information.
That is what, please send what you have and then let me compare it to what we have
Well,
because that
you
is,
could send me what you have and we'll both compare what we
okay,
have.
I'll be happy
Gentlemen,
to do that.
Gentlemen's time has expired. Now,
Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman and Madam Ranking Chairman. I'm honored to be here as the successor of Debbie Stabenow, our esteemed former chairman, the queen of Michigan agriculture. We miss her, and I have really, really big shoes to fill there. Thank you for our conversation in my office. I appreciate your positive approach to meeting with everybody. And I have the honor to live on my family farm, which used to be beef cattle, is now soy and corn, alternatively. But I'm also a former CIA officer, Pentagon official. So I really come to the Ag Committee with a sense that food security is national security, and the United States should always be able to feed itself by itself. And everything flows from there. If people agree, then there's a lot of policies that become pretty clear. The sale of our land to foreign governments or to private equity, all of those things. So I think that's the approach that I tend to take. I'm also from Michigan. We're not Kansas. We're not Iowa. We are specialty crops, right? We have the second most diverse agricultural sector in the country after California. We take pride in not doing monocropping and doing a lot of fruits and vegetables and a lot of other things. So this is why I'm particularly concerned about the tariffs. Everyone's talking about tariffs. Mr. Trump is throwing them around, and I just want to review the bidding to make sure, particularly with your agency, that we're all on the same page on what happened the last time President Trump put on tariffs, what happened specifically to our farmers. So just to review the bidding, President Trump announced 25% tariffs on Chinese products, batteries, TVs, medical devices. Again, I certainly understand the instinct as a CIA officer, right? I want to push back on China. China retaliated and put 25% tariffs on soybeans, fruits, pork, and some other items. Then we got into a trade war. We started adding more things to the list. They started adding more things to the list. It went on and on and on and back and forth. Suddenly our farmers across the country are screaming bloody murder because the markets that they used to have access to, no one wanted to buy our stuff because it had that 25% tariff. We felt that very acutely. So what did we do? Because we felt, under the Trump administration, people rightfully felt like our farmers were getting the shaft here. They raided the CCC account, the emergency rainy day account that you will have, control over, for $23 billion to give subsidies to our farmers. So we put on the tariff, got into a trade war, ended up, our farmers were in trouble, we paid them off. And everyone's here has said, no farmer wants a subsidy, they want to work, right? They want to get paid a fair rate for their crop. That emergency fund is the same fund that helps us with things like avian flu that we're now dealing with all over the country. So you can imagine, as a Michigander, the throwing around of tariffs, particularly with Canada, Mexico, a bunch of other places. I'm trepidatious that this is going to come back to our farmers. And when you get confirmed, and it looks like you will swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States, not to President Trump. So can you say, I know you've said it, but for the Michiganders watching, that you will throw your body in front of the bus to make sure that any political talking point on tariffs that may sound good is actually truly tested against how it will impact our farmers like it was not last time around.
Senator, I appreciate your passion. I share it. And I think we are similar in a lot of ways. And yes, my commitment is that there will be no sleeping, that we will work around the clock to ensure that our ag communities across this country are represented in those discussions and at the table. And I will do everything in my power to elevate, preserve, honor, conserve that backbone of America.
Yeah, I just want to know that, you have a good relationship with President Trump, and that's a value add. So use it to help our farmers, not just a political talking point. We all want to punch back on China, most of us. But it's got to fit reality here and not end up boomeranging on us like it did last time. Next is avian flu. We talked about this as well in my office. Michigan has been dealing with this. Lots of states around the country are dealing with it. We've had human beings, a few getting ill, one passed away. We now see it in cats, household pets that are eating birds that have it, that kind of thing. And what we've seen, I think Michigan has gotten decently high marks for handling it well because we've cooperated with the federal government, right? But there's a lot of folks around the country that are not so friendly with the federal government. You are going to be, the federal government, having to put some muscle behind some of our rules so that we don't see this spread, right? So we don't, again, we're all, right now, you cannot get a dozen eggs around Holly, Michigan, where I live, for less than $4.69 a dozen. Used to be $2. So please tell me what you're going to do in the federal government role that you're about to take to make sure that we stem the spread of avian flu, even to states and farmers who are not so friendly with the federal government.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator. And I do remember our conversation. It is certainly a top priority. I know in my opening remarks, it is one of my top 4 priorities on day one, putting the right team in place to ensure that, that what you discussed and outlined is happening. I do believe that with my depth of experience with working at all levels of government, specifically at the state level. I've been working closely, I believe probably mostly Republican, maybe all Republican, but all the ag commissioners I'm already in contact with, and if confirmed, will continue to work closely with them. I think there's no doubt that the all of government approach, working with the stakeholder community, but also the state and local officials, is going to be extremely important. And to your point about food security at the top of your remarks, that remains paramount, I think, for all of us.
Yeah. And then lastly, I'll just echo some of Senator Warnock's comments. We have seen in versions of the Farm Bill that were created in the past year, both in the House and the Senate, that SNAP is usually the bill payer for at least part of it. In cuts to SNAP, and then additional subsidies to some of our farmers, frankly, particularly farmers down south. I understand that that's popular. I would just ask you again to look into your heart. If the majority of poor people are children, that's not a work requirement that they can meet, right? So please just remember the children and be thoughtful about our approach on SNAP, not just, again, a political talking point.
I will,
Thank you.
Senator,
I yield back.
thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Fisher.
Thank you, Senator Bozeman, and congratulations on your gavel. Look forward to working with you.
Representative, welcome to the committee, Representative Kerwin. I know that most folks have been recognizing you, but we just want to say welcome. I look forward to working with you in whatever capacity we can. My late father also served in the New Mexico legislature, and very much appreciated some of those good projects that he had with some of the new family, if you will, the extended family of members from Texas I got to know as a young person. So welcome to the committee. Mrs. Rollins, thank you for being here. I very much appreciated the conversation that we had in the office as well. And one of the areas I shared in our conversation is something that I hold deeply, as I expressed to you, which is that every American should be able to have food on their table. No one should go hungry in America, no matter what zip code or area code they live in, or no matter how much money they make. I appreciated my colleagues raising issues in some of these areas with nutritional programs. And given the important role that the Secretary of Agriculture plays in administering federal nutritional programs, I'd like to better understand your vision for them. Now, I did my due diligence to go through the America First Policy Institute's documents, but I wasn't able to find anything that I could digest. It's probably the wrong word to use. When it comes to addressing hunger in America,
Yes.
Do you agree that in America that, let me ask it this way. Do you believe that in an America that is truly great, that our children don't go hungry?
Yes.
updates to the Thrifty Food Plan in 2000 and 2021, a program that you'd have a lot of say over, lifted about 2.4 million SNAP participants, including 1 million children, out of poverty. That's good. It's not great yet because we haven't done it all, but it's a good start. Now, Ms. Rollins, yes or no, will you commit to opposing any cuts to SNAP that would prevent Americans, including millions of children, from putting food on their table?
Senator, probably not surprising to you, I can't commit to that. Obviously, it is of utmost importance to me, and you and I discussed that we solve this, that it isn't just hunger, it's nutrition as well for so many of our children that don't have access to those programs. But I also know that I have a duty to the taxpayer who is funding in significant numbers those programs. I sincerely believe, Senator, that working together and working with other members of this committee, it's important to Chairman Bozeman as well, that we can find a solution that may or may not end up in cuts. I don't know. That is something I need to spend more time on, research the data, meet with more people. I can't make that commitment to you today, but I can make the commitment to you for a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of conversation as we move down that road.
I appreciate that. You know, I'm always reminded that budgets are a reflection of values, depending on how those budgets are put forth as well. And I certainly hope that in America, while we all have a responsibility, with fiscal responsibility, that our priorities would say children shouldn't go hungry in America. And I hope that's something that we can find some commonality on down the road. Now, I want to drill into something more specific, which is a program called WIC. It's a program for women, infants, and children, also a food program. It's one of those acronym programs you talked about that are over at the Department of Agriculture. For decades, Republicans and Democrats have supported full funding for this program. Meaning that no eligible mother or child who applies for the program is turned away. In your capacity as secretary, is this a program that we can count on your support with?
I look forward, I believe that's one of the 16 nutrition programs across the United States Department of Agriculture purview. I have not spent as much time as I hope to in the coming days and weeks, once confirmed, to really dig into that. But clearly, my heart, this administration, I believe speaking for the full administration, clearly America is the place where everyone should have the opportunity to be part of a safety net when needed. And WIC, I realize, is an important part of that safety net.
I appreciate that response very much. Now, in the area of specialty crops, everyone here brags on whose is best. We have it.
It's New Mexico.
I'm going to address that right away. I share the concern that many have shared up here today around small farms. 53% of New Mexico farms are 50 acres or less. I mean, the one that I'm on is under 5. I'm concerned as well with what's been happening with small farms across America, whether it's water rights that are being gobbled up and taken off for something else, away from agricultural water rights, or who's buying them, or what they're turning into. It's one of the reasons I introduced a piece of legislation with Senator Moran that's a Farmer-to-Farmer Education Act. I will never forget a conversation I had with a grower back home where I was asking about USDA programs years back, and he said, well, we don't do so well qualifying for those programs and all the rest. And I said, well, you're doing okay. You're doing better than most. Tell me how. And he said, I had to learn how to farm USDA.
Yeah.
Maybe that works for some, but not for all.
Yeah.
I agree with everyone that's talked about the red tape that exists for some of these programs. We've got to find a better way. These are people that are spending time producing food, growing food. They shouldn't be stuck behind a desk trying to figure out what document needs to go here, what document needs to go there. We've got to find a better way. So I appreciate your commitment already in that particular area and your commitment to work with small farms. The other area that I raised in our meeting, and I actually just got off the phone with someone, so I apologize for excusing myself, but the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire. This is a fire that started a few years ago that became the largest fire in the state of New Mexico's history. What surprises a lot of folks, and I appreciate my Republican and Democratic colleagues here for supporting me and helping to create a fund specific for this fire.
Right.
This fire started as a prescribed burn. My brother actually called in to try to burn our ditches and some things around our house And you have to call the local fire department, is the way our permit works. And you call them up and you say, can I burn today? And they'll tell you, nope, no burning today. He got a no burn the day that they started this prescribed burn. Got out of control. So then I got told by folks around USDA, well, very few percentage of our fires, prescribed fires, turn into big burns. About 2 months later, guess what happened in New Mexico?
Yeah.
We had another one.
It's
And then there was an investigation. And then that investigation showed that rather than using the infrared technology that we've all helped fund, some folks put their hands on the deal. And they didn't feel warm. And they walked away. And the winds kicked up. And we know what happens when a little coal gets a little bit of a breeze. Sometimes we do it ourselves, give it a little breath. There's got to be a better way about ensuring that the technology that we can secure, the firefighters are going to get paid properly, but that we're going to follow this so that this does not happen anywhere in America again. And I'll close with this, Mr. Chairman. I very much appreciate, Mrs. Rollins, your commitment to working with Governor Nome or with FEMA and making sure when these programs exist that money gets out the door to the families that need it most. So just thank you for that. Good luck with everything. And again, Representative, honored to have you here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Moran.
Mr. Chairman, I would defer to the senator from South Dakota, the majority leader. Otherwise, I will feel too much pressure to be brief.
Well, they told me that the majority leader was here, and it is customary that he goes, but he was trying to be show his servant leadership and let you go.
Well, I was trying to do the same thing, and I defer and yield to the senator from South Dakota.
Okay, Senator Thune, and I think it's a real tribute. Senator Thune right now is a busy person,
Yes.
trying to get.
Thank you very much. I don't want the coach to be upset, but when you ask the question, how did you both get here? I kind of get it, how you got here. I'm still trying to figure out about the coach.
How Coach got here?
But you did another thing that really is astonishing. Senator Cruz gave you a very nice introduction. And he, I didn't know something that he's kept on the down low. He actually has a sense of humor. So this is a pretty astonishing hearing.
It's a new day.
It is. And thank you for your visit to my office and your enthusiasm about rural America. And I'm so delighted to be working with our new ranking member and our new chair to try to strengthen rural America. And I share the, point of view strongly held by members of this committee that rural America really is about the great values and strength of America, hard work, family, community. And rural America has been under brutal pressure. And I think every single one of us wants to do everything we can to strengthen it, because a strong rural America is a strong America. A couple of things. We have been really blessed in Vermont with a very responsive Department of Agriculture. The Rural Development Organization in Vermont has helped us through the floods of July 23 and July 24. It has used opportunities to strengthen the economy for farmers. So I just want to make certain that some of the things that have really been helpful to us, we can have some confidence will continue should you be the new Secretary of Agriculture. Number one, we've got, under the previous administration, there was $40 million that went to Vermont for energy efficiency programs. And we don't have to have a debate about climate change and whether it's real or not, but my view is this: agriculture and our farmers can help us deal with the weather events that are enormous by doing things where they get income to sequester carbon. So without having the climate change discussion, I want to make certain that I can have some confidence that our farmers who are adopting regenerative agricultural practices, organic agriculture, are doing things that by all estimations make for good, healthy crops, but also reduce carbon emissions, that will continue to make that possible, and they'll get paid to do it, not just be asked through regulations to bear the burden.
Senator Welsh, thank you, and love visiting with you, and excited to come to Vermont if invited. I loved our conversation, and we actually talked about the workforce at USDA, at least those that you have interacted with and worked with, and hearing from you how excellent the service was and the good job that they did meant a lot to me, and I look forward to learning more and meeting them if confirmed. I think it's important to recognize, Senator, I will always have an open dialogue with all of you. I think I gave all of you my cell phone.
No, you did.
did.
Let me go on to the next one, because I just want to
Sure.
go through a few things. Another issue is labor on the farm. We can't milk our cows. We literally can't milk our cows without immigrant labor. And I'm for a secure border. I think all of us here are, but I'm also for legal immigration. And that is a real challenge for our dairy farmers. And I want to make sure that whatever we do to secure the border doesn't deprive our hardworking dairy farms and farmers access to the labor that they absolutely depend on. Can you comment on that?
Senator, yes, thank you. And I appreciate everyone's commitment to a secure border. You are not the only one on this side of the room that has made the point that that's really important. But I know there is great concern amongst our ag community on what immigration under President Trump will look like. My commitment to you is this, that understanding the data and understanding the impact of those in the ag community, dairy farms, I think especially are concerned, but everybody is, ensuring that we're working with the nominee over at Labor, Lori Chavez-Duremer, who is from Oregon.
So we will work together on that.
Yes, sir.
And you appreciate the importance of having access to that labor for our dairy farms and others as well.
I know that these cows need to be milked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't go away. If there's no one to milk them, that's big trouble.
All right. Another thing, a shared view that a lot of the incredible challenges farmers have are because they don't control the weather. And a lot of our small farmers, our vegetable farmers, they don't have an insurance program that works for them. The insurance program for some of our vegetable folks, they would only get paid wholesale or reimbursed wholesale when they sell at farmers markets, at retail. And also, they would have this incredible documentation process there where they had to say how many tomatoes they had, how many beets they had. I've introduced the Weather Act as an effort to try to streamline the reporting requirements, and I'm not going to ask you for the details on that, but we have to have insurance programs that help not just the big commodities, which is a challenge and an obligation we have, but the smaller farmers that are the future. Can I count on working with you on that?
Well, streamline, the word streamline is my love language. So yes, you and I will absolutely work together on that. And we've spent a lot of time this morning talking to everyone about restoring rural America and how important that is to the next 250 years of our country. That will happen because of our small family farms and our rural ranchers.
You know, and another issue for young farmers, it's so hard for a young person to get into farming,
Yes,
largely
sir.
because they can't get the farmland. And there's a lot of concern expressed here, and I share it, about Chinese possibly buying up. But you know who's buying it up? It's private equity. I want farmers to be able to buy up farmland. I mean, is that of concern to you? I know having access to farmland for young farmers is, but China may be a threat, but private equity is a threat too. Care to comment?
Sir, thank you. The average farmer today, the average age is 58 years old. If we really think we're going to have a sustainable, thriving ag community in 20 or 30 or 50 years after you and I are probably have gone to meet our maker, then we have to reverse that trend.
Okay, and the last topic in this round, rural broadband.
Yes,
it
sir.
has made such a difference for rural Vermont and for our farm communities. And your department has played a major role in facilitating that. We have to continue that and get that last barn on the longest dirt road wired so they have the advantages that come with access to the internet. Care to comment?
100% agree.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Senator. Thank you.
Senator Justice.
The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, it's good to see you.
You too.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I want to raise the deep concerns that many of us have about the over $5 billion in USDA program funding that remains frozen under this administration. That is funding that farmers, food producers, and rural communities were told that they could count on. And in many cases, these are not speculative awards or pending applications. These are signed agreements, binding contracts between the federal government and farmers, where the terms were agreed to, budgets were made, and in some cases, planning or construction even has already begun. Farmers in Florida and across the country invested real money and made huge business decisions based on these commitments. That includes producers participating in USDA's conservation programs, REAP energy projects, and food purchase agreements with schools and food banks. And now they're only getting silence, or worse, cancellation notices. And this funding freeze is not just a bureaucratic delay. You can't tell me, well, this is just all under review. It's been reviewed by Congress. It's law. These are programs and funding that these farmers have counted on, purchase agreements with schools and food banks, and it's a breach of trust. I've heard from Florida citrus growers, specialty crop farmers, and small agricultural businesses who feel abandoned. They don't know if they'll be reimbursed for expenses they sunk into these projects or if they'll need to lay off workers. And they're left with one simple, devastating question. Can I still trust the federal government to honor its word? So can you explain why these agreements remain frozen, what authority the department has to delay these payments, and how USDA plans to repair the damage to your credibility among farmers? We have courts that are ordering this administration to unfreeze these funds, and you're not doing so and choosing to violate the law. Are you going to abide by the law, or are you going to listen to Elon Musk?
Well, there's so much there. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. First of all, at the very top, what I would ask is any specifics, contracts that you are getting feedback from your constituents or others on, would you send those to us and just make sure?
There are a lot.
That would be great. The second thing I'll say is the $20 billion that was frozen has all been reviewed and released down to the final $5 billion. I understand $5 billion is still a lot of money, but we have made progress. The rest of that will be finished. It's happening daily, but by the end of the month. A lot of it we have reconstituted. Obviously, the last administration had very different priorities than we do at USDA. There was a lot of effort put on diversity, equity, and inclusion, on climate programs. And we've reorganized now that to support the family farm and the farmer.
Okay, Madam Secretary, if I can interrupt you for a moment.
Yes, please.
I understand that you might have different priorities between administrations. That doesn't change the fact that these are programs that are law, that it is funding that was appropriated by Congress and that was in process for delivery. And just because the new administration has different priorities doesn't mean that you can freeze those funds and block access to them or cancel those programs.
Well, I disagree. Well, the premise is correct, but the facts
court
are wrong.
With the administration.
Well, we have abided by every court order. There is not one court order we have not abided by. So please let us know if you know differently, if your staff sees differently, but the court we can take off the table. Every time the court has told us to do something, we have, of course, followed. But to your point, Congress did not tell the last USDA to spend $600,000 studying the menstrual cycle of transgender mice. That was not a congressionally directed.
Okay.
Or
that's a preposterous example,
but it is actually an example. The supporting food justice for queer farmers in San Francisco, that did not come from Congress.
Reclaiming my time.
I understand, but I think that's what you're saying is unfair.
When I say that I'm reclaiming my time, it means that I need to ask you something else. So
okay, well, if what you're saying isn't factual, then I have to.
Please pause for a moment so I can do that, because the time is mine. Mr.
Please go
Chairman,
ahead.
If you would give me some of that time back, I would appreciate it. You have $2 billion in food aid that was frozen. You have the U.S. Agency for Global Media that was frozen, $250 million. You have AmeriCorps state and national grant programs that were frozen. You have Agricultural Conservation Easement Program, $500 million that was frozen. Watershed programs, $800 million that was frozen. And you're going to tell me all of that money has been distributed now and the reviews are done and the grant funding's been released?
No, of course not. All of it has been reviewed and realigned with this administration's goals while complying with the law and court orders. Let's talk about food aid. So I'm sure you're talking about the oh goodness gracious, the name escapes me, but the big one, Food for Aid maybe, that is a very, very big program, $240 million, I believe. Only 37 million of that was actually farm related. The layers of abuse and waste and
But
bureaucracy.
reclaiming my time, Madam
That's
Secretary.
what we
it
have to
doesn't
realign
change
for the
fact,
taxpayer.
Madam Secretary, reclaiming my time, it doesn't change the fact that it's still law. It was still appropriated funds directed by Congress in many cases with specificity on what, no, I had about a minute and a half that the Secretary would not give me my time back, so I'd
I would
the-
like to answer the questions,
Okay,
but
and I would
hear
like
you.
to make sure that you answer my question.
But I don't have time to answer them.
On the specificity of the programs that were appropriated by Congress within those funds, and the department froze them and did not release the funds, and you are not allowed by law to decide that because your priorities don't line up with the way Congress appropriated those funds specifically, to just decide not to spend them.
We will have,
Much. The gentlelady was recognized for an extra minute. The gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Klein, is.
Morning, Madam Secretary.
morning.
Thank you for joining us. I want to follow up on hurricane disaster assistance. Key priority for farmers in Georgia, Madam Secretary. It's worth noting that after Hurricane Michael in 2018, it took the Congress the better part of a year to pass disaster assistance. We worked together across the aisle here to get it done after Hurricane Helene in less than 90 days. Here's a quote from Aaron Moses, owner of Moses Pecan in Uvalde, Georgia. We lost almost our entire 2024 pecan crop when Hurricane Helene hit our orchards. We lost the majority of our mature pecan trees, which will set our farm's production back for years. We were thankful that Congress approved disaster assistance funding at the end of last year, but it's critical that these funds get to those that need help. Here's a quote from Chris Hopkins, a cotton producer in Toombs County. He said that the storm has created a void due to loss of yield and quality as well as cost of cleanup that has become untenable to a first-generation operation like mine. When can farmers in Georgia expect that hurricane relief, which we passed timely in Congress, to be out the door?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for that. That relief was passed very quickly and very impressively at the end of last year. And so we have been tracking it very, very closely. I have visited Georgia. Hopefully next time I'll see you. I've visited some of those peanut farmers especially. I've seen the devastation firsthand. It is heartbreaking to witness it. I had mentioned earlier, but it's good to keep repeating it, that within a matter of weeks, the portal will open on those grant applications under ECAP, which was the first tranche, that first $10 billion that went out for emergency assistance.
That's the economic assistance.
That's right.
I'm
But
referring to
that
disaster
I understand, but I just want to use that as an explanation of how we're going to be also doing the second tranche, which is the disaster. We on March 17th announced it. On March 20th, funds were moving out and into farmers'
When will
bank
the portal
accounts.
be open for the disaster assistance?
By the end of the month, hopefully in the next week.
And how will that impact states that are using a block grant arrangement with USDA?
Well, that's a state-by-state question, so I'll be happy to follow up with Tyler Harper, your ag commissioner, who I know is tracking this very, very closely, and ensure that we fully understand.
When do you expect those discussions with the state to be resolved?
Well, again, there are 50 states. We're talking to all of them. When we open that portal, hopefully it moves almost immediately. We've already moved the $280 million that was outlined in that disaster relief into Texas because it was outlined. It was obviously easier than the open book on the rest of the states, but it will move very, very quickly.
Okay,
If you don't
time
see
is of the
that,
essence.
then would you please let me know?
sure will.
And we'll do everything we can.
Madam Secretary, are you familiar with the Local Foods for Schools program?
Yes, sir.
So here's a few quotes from my constituents. This is from Scott Richardson of the Dawson County School District. Local Foods for Schools program has transformed our ability to bring healthy, fresh, and locally grown fruits and vegetables to our students. Prior to the LFS, purchasing from local farmers was often cost prohibitive. Here's a quote from Parrish Akins. They own a family farm. He owns a family farm in Nashville, Georgia. Mr. Akins said, "This program, quote, has allowed our farming operation to capture some of the profits which in the past would have gone to another member of a supply chain and has allowed us to increase our revenues." Here's Colquitt County School Nutrition Office. "Purchasing local foods has significantly enriched our school community by providing fresher, healthier meal options for students." Here's Atlanta Neighborhood Charter School Nutrition. Quote, we bought some Georgia shrimp from a guy who's been in the shrimping industry since he was a teenager. In Brunswick, Crisp County School Nutrition. Through the Local Food for Schools program, we were able to establish reliable and stable local food sources. This is a program, of course, that helps Georgia farmers sell food to Georgia schools. Why did you cancel the program?
Well, let's talk about Georgia for a second. The local
I
food.
have 50 seconds left.
Well, that's
so
a
I
big
just wanna
question.
know
You've got to give me a little bit more
You
time.
can take your time, but I want to know why you canceled the program.
Well, we canceled the program. It was a COVID-era program, first of all. Second of all, the money wasn't being spent. In the current tranche, your state has $2 million of $7 million left in the account. You're asking for contract extensions because you can't spend the money quickly enough. The food for the LFPA, we've got $10 million of $20 million left.
Why
you've
rather
got
than
money
tailor
in the
the
bank.
why rather
It's
than
not
tailor
a
the
good
program
use of
did you cancel?
taxpayer funds
Well, my
when you've got
constituents believe that it
taxpayer
is.
dollars. Well, I would love to talk to your constituents. I
School
wonder if
systems,
they know
farmers.
that the state of Georgia has not moved that money out.
Will
We
you
can't
please
continue
provide
that.
to the committee an economic justification for the outright cancellation of that program?
An economic justification for the outright cancellation of the COVID-era program that was due to end. Yes,
Of the
we will
local
do
Food
that.
for Schools program that my
Yes.
constituents enjoy and rely on?
Yes, we will be happy to do that, sir.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
Shaheen, in her new role as the two of you lead this committee, it's a really critical one. Secretary Rollins, thank you for being here. Let me be really frank with you. The very mission of USDA is under incredible threat from this administration. We are seeing dedicated researchers and experts who are being pushed out the door. Research safety efforts have been put on hold. Funds that Congress passed have been frozen and canceled by this administration, and nearly $17 billion in investments are now being held up at USDA. That, to me, is really unacceptable and needs to change. We are seeing our food banks with less, increased prices at the grocery store. We are seeing Forest Service personnel who've been fired. They respond to our wildfires. We need them. Experts working on avian flu gone. And my farmers are extremely concerned about these illegal funding freezes and the illegal tariffs that are impacting them. We also know that 15,000 employees have been pushed out. That's more than 15% of your department. We know USDA cannot help farmers or communities without the people and the resources that it needs, which is really, to me, why this arbitrary workforce cuts combined with the sweeping cuts that President Trump proposed in the new budget that we just got is really alarming. Secretary Rollins, let me just say to you, this committee needs a lot more information about how your department is spending this funding that Congress provided earlier this year, and the FY25 spend plan that you submitted last year, required by law, part of the continuing resolution, just isn't satisfactory. We need to have that information in order to write our appropriations bills. And I just want you to know I expect you to work with members on both sides of this aisle to provide the details so we understand how you're spending money and what is actually needed in the coming year. That is why that's what I really want you to know and why I especially wanted to be here today. But I do have some questions for you. Because in Washington State, my home state, and across the country, these abrupt terminations and resignations of ARS scientists and support staff have really gutted some of our vital agricultural research programs overnight. This is really undermining years of progress. Research on plant diseases, making crops more resilient, extreme weather. That work is really fundamental to our farmers, and they are deeply worried about that being gone. I know that many of the ARS scientists have been reinstated. Essential support staff has not. So will you commit to taking steps to reinstate the ARS support staff and stabilize these research units across the country?
Well, there was a lot in that, Senator, so I'll try to talk really quickly and answer as much as I can, and then please reach out to me directly, and we can always have this conversation anytime. I don't think you were in here, but I've had long conversations with members on both sides of the aisle about all of this in the last couple of months, so I welcome that conversation anytime. The first thing I want to say is the 15,000 number, it is less than 15% of our total workforce. I realize that's still a very, very big number, but I think it's important to realize in the context that every year USDA through attrition loses between 8,000 and 10,000 employees. So as a massive government agency.
But they're refilled.
Well, and that's what we are looking to refill the frontliners. That's what I was talking about right now. So whether it's FSA, APHIS, the wildland firefighters, those are through a memorandum I just signed. We are actively looking and recruiting to fill those positions that are integral to the efforts and the key
you let
front lines.
people go and you're looking for new people to fill the positions that they had experience in?
We're having those discussions right now. We're working with all of you around the country in your states. We believe our firefighters are operationally ready for wildfire season, our FSA offices. We're looking, we're making things more efficient, but bringing on new people that could potentially bring and be a game changer in those offices. But by the way, the people that you're talking about, the 15,000, those were all deferred resignations. None of those people were fired. So if they want to come back and if they were in a key position, then we would love to have that conversation. The other thing, in the second round of DRPs, which just happened about, a couple of weeks ago, we did not accept the DRPs of employees that were in those key positions that I outlined, that a few of them, I think we had several hundred that said, all right, we're going to take it. And we said, no, your role is too important right now. We're not going to accept it. So we are very intentionally approaching this. Have we done it perfectly? No. Any type of whole-scale change and big effort to basically realign an entire government agency is difficult. And we know that, and we know that it hasn't been perfect, but we're working every day to solve for a lot of this, and I think we're making a lot of really good progress.
Okay, well, you didn't answer my question specifically on ARS scientists, research, the support staff.
Well, what I would love if you or your team could get us exactly what you're talking about, who you're talking about, and where you're talking about it, because we've been, like I say, line by line, keeping the staff in place where we believe it's of utmost importance and aligns with the agency's mission. In areas where we don't believe, we haven't been as focused on that. But again, that's a conversation I would so welcome to understand exactly where and what that looks like.
That's important, but this is on record, and so one of my concerns is that you let people go however you want to characterize it, who knew these jobs, and now you're looking for people to fill these jobs because now we know how essential they are. That doesn't seem to me to be very efficient. But I need to ask you about nutrition programs in my last minute here.
Sure.
Because we have about 134,000 people in Washington State, 7 million people nationwide who rely on WIC. It provides, as you know, essential nutrition support to moms and kids during the earliest, most vulnerable stages of life. It is one of the most effective programs that we have. It's always received bipartisan support on this committee. It is glaringly absent from the president's budget request. WIC, SNAP, CSFP, these are really key, important programs for seniors. They're not optional. They're essential programs that feed moms and babies and the elderly. So I wanted to ask you, do you fully support funding WIC, yes or no?
Well, okay, so are you talking about the LFS and LFPA contracts that were canceled, or SNAP?
I'm talking about the budget that came over to us on Friday.
WIC is fully funded. SNAP is, so that's why I'm confused by your question. I'm sorry, Senator.
Well, in our looking at this, it is absent. I'm happy to get the information to you, but this, for this committee, I know it's something we have always supported on a bipartisan basis. It is something we need to continue.
Yeah, WIC is fully funded. I'm happy to talk SNAP or some of the other cuts, but.
Yeah, WIC, it is eliminated in the budget that the president sent on Friday.
We also thought that.
We'll clarify that and get that right back to you. I know there have been some realigning in SNAP and in some of the food banks, et cetera. That's kind of where we've been talking and focusing on.
For the committee members, the president sent over his budget on Friday. It does eliminate WIC in it, so we obviously need to have better information from the administration.
That's, our understanding is that, I mean, number one, we fully funded WIC in the last go-around in the CR, as you know, Senator. And our understanding is that just in the skinny budget, it just wasn't included. It's funded for this year.
Yeah, it's funded.
This is the skinny budget. There are things we don't have yet. So that at least was our
It's fully
understanding.
funded. You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator Murray.
Thank you, Senator Murray.
Member Amy Klobuchar and a great neighbor, as has been mentioned many times over, between Minnesota and Iowa. Amy has worked with me on so many different agriculture and biofuel related issues. And I am excited to work with you, Senator Klobuchar, you and Chairman Bozeman, as we work on a 5-year farm bill. It is very important that we get that done, and it is something that I hear continuously from Iowans as I travel all 99 counties in my great state. And of course, to you, Mrs. Brooke Rollins, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for bringing your friends and family. I know how important that support is, and I'm excited to see you as our nominee for Secretary of Agriculture. I know you're an ag girl at heart. We have talked about it in length. I truly am too, and I do have full confidence in your ability to lead this department, full faith and confidence in this role. So, Ms. Rollins, something that you and I talked about, I'll start with this one. We talked about it at length, is telework. And I know that we must address some of the work policies for federal employees at the Department of Agriculture. As you know, the GAO reported USDA's headquarters has a space utilization rate at just 11%. 11%. I've even received whistleblower letters from employees describing the building as a ghost town. So last year, I addressed this exact issue with then Secretary Tom Vilsack and was met with very strong opposition. Rather than provide any evidence to dispute the GAO's numbers, and even after repeatedly following up with his staff, he refused to give me specific in-office numbers or building utilization data. In stark contrast, President Trump acted immediately to get our federal workforce back to actually working for the American people. So, Ms. Rollins, in line with these efforts, what's your plan to achieve the 60% utilization goal for your headquarters buildings, which has been set by Congress? And secondly, will you commit to requiring each USDA employee to show up to the office?
Senator Ernst, thank you, and I really loved our time. We first started talking about this in way before even the election.
Way back.
And I love your intense focus on ensuring that those who are hired and paid by taxpayer dollars are fully committed to serve in the most effective way wherever and for whomever they work. And that is, I believe, being in an office almost every single time. And it's not my belief alone. Obviously, President Trump has been talking about this. I believe there was even an executive order in the last day or two calling for the same. So I do look forward to getting into the office and hopefully very soon, and really working to effectuate the most effective workforce that the United States Department of Agriculture has ever had in the history of this country, and in so doing, ensuring that they are all in the office to make that happen.
Wonderful. Thank you for that commitment. And another area that has been brought up quite frequently up here on the dais, and one that won't be a surprise to you, but another area that is critically important for my Iowa farmers is biofuels. It's a key source of demand for our corn and our soybeans. During the Biden administration, this industry really did suffer from deflated renewable or the RVOs. The last-minute announcements on sales of E15 and the lack of clear tax policy guidance on the 45Z clean fuel production credit, which is something that Roger Marshall, Senator Marshall of Kansas, and I were just discussing. Many of these moves have forced plants to idle or stop production completely. This is a huge issue for us. This is threatening hundreds of rural jobs and squeezing grain prices in the process. So I do applaud President Trump for making E15 a priority. He did have an executive order on that, but I do look forward to securing a permanent fix in law. But we will need an all-hands-on-deck approach for crafting future RVOs that reflect production capacity and guidance on the 45Z that will support American farmers. So, Ms. Rollins, the USDA has a very big role to play when crafting these policies. As Secretary, will you commit to supporting biofuels and working with me to provide certainty for our farmers and the entire renewable fuel industry?
Yes, Senator, and I really look forward to that. I think there's no question where President Trump stands on this. I believe, if memory serves me correct, there was even an executive order on this in the last administration. It didn't come out of domestic policy. It came out of Larry Kudlow's NEC, so I didn't work on that directly. But I know the courts, I believe, overturned it and correctly stated that the Congress should take that up. I really look forward to working with you, but also with my friend Lee Zeldin, if confirmed, over at EPA on a piece of this, on the 45Z, with my friend Scott Bessent over at Treasury. I think that you all will find and hopefully be encouraged that the cabinet, if confirmed, we all know each other, are friends. Many of us are like family, and we really, really are looking forward to working together on these cross-agency issues like the ones that you've just outlined.
That's wonderful. Really appreciate that, because in the last administration, I have to say that in conversations with the leaders at all of those agencies, we were really blown off and left swinging in the breeze. So I anticipate that President Trump will want to do right by our farmers and those that are producing renewable fuels. Another issue, just very quickly, Ms. Rollins, top of mind for Iowa's ag community is Proposition 12. We are the #1 hog producer in the United States, #1 hog producing state. And California's ballot initiative has been very devastating for our family farms and is only fueling market consolidation of pork producers. So, just ultimately, what we would like to do is move on legislation, craft a way forward so that we don't have states telling our producers how they can raise their livestock. Very important to us. So, Ms. Rollins, in line with President Trump's priority to lower food costs for American families, will you commit to working with this committee to reverse Proposition 12?
Proposition 12, and I have just in the last few months become very acquainted with it. You know, the idea that one state, and listen, I'm a federalism believer. I believe in the founder's vision of the 10th Amendment, and the government closest to the people is the government that should be most active and under that 10th Amendment. But this particular issue, I believe from even a bipartisan perspective, there's no doubt that it's not just affecting California, it's affecting multitudes of other states, multitudes of other parts of the ag community, including our hog family farms, Iowa, but many other states have been really affected by this as well. I know that you guys, if you don't even already have a bill filed, you're soon to file one. Legislation has been drafted. So yes, I commit to working with you on that and look forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Rollins. And I look forward to hosting you in Iowa on an ag and biofuels tour, and I would welcome your family as well. So thank you very much, and I yield back.
Senator Durbin.
Thank you.
Senator Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and at the outset, I want to tell you how very grateful I am to serve on this committee. California has not had a senator on the Agriculture Committee for over 30 years, and as a leading agricultural state, I'm really proud of the industry and all the people who work in it, and grateful to have a chance to represent them on this committee. And Senator Marshall, I wanted to tell you that a California legislator once made a name for himself by drinking a beaker of malathion to demonstrate his view that he thought it was that safe. I will not be doing that today. Ms. Rollins, thank you for being here today. When we met earlier this month to discuss your nomination, firefighters in Southern California had just begun efforts to contain 2 blazes. As we know now, this was only the beginning of what would ultimately amount to one of the most devastating wildfire disasters in the state's history, if not the nation's history. Over the last 2.5 weeks in LA, it's been difficult for me to put into words how truly catastrophic these fires have been. Just the scope of them is beyond anything I would have ever imagined. Whole neighborhoods and communities just wiped out. The Forest Service has been playing an amazing role in the emergency response efforts, working hand in hand with state and local partners to secure resources and personnel. To aid California's wildfire response this month, the Forest Service deployed 2,300 federal firefighters, 12 large air tankers, 20 helicopters, 6 scoopers, and 8 modular airborne firefighting aircraft. Without these federal resources, the devastation in LA would have been far worse, and we're not done with it yet. We had the outbreak of another fire just yesterday. If confirmed as secretary, are you committed to deploying the same emergency resources to fight wildfires in blue states that would be deployed to fight wildfires in red states? Can we count on you not to discriminate among states in the vigor of the federal response?
Senator, thank you. And obviously, but it bears saying since you asked, 100% yes. And to watch the devastation in your beautiful state has been heartbreaking for all of us, no matter if we're from red states or blue states. I think that hopefully, if there's any good that comes from this, if I'm confirmed, we can figure out how to be even a better, more impactful resource the next time this happens, and hopefully be able to work more closely, more quickly with those on the ground across blue states and red states.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. Wildland firefighters have been putting their lives on the line to protect my communities back home. And we need to make sure that we continue to encourage people to become wildland firefighters and that their compensation is commensurate with the critical and dangerous work that they do. I was speaking with one firefighter who was, I think, an LA fire department firefighter, not a wildland firefighter, but nonetheless facing the same risks, who told me that he wasn't sure he was going to make it out alive, that there were fires in front of him and behind him. His communications equipment was in and out. Water was running low. And he said it was the closest thing to hell that he could imagine. The key, I think, to recruiting and retaining people to do that kind of vital and dangerous work is to make sure they're well compensated. The bipartisan infrastructure law signed by President Biden included a long overdue pay raise for federal firefighters, but that raise is set to expire in March. This means our federal firefighters could once again be paid as low as $15 an hour to risk their lives to keep our communities safe. If confirmed as secretary, are you committed to fighting to extend the pay increase so that we continue to recruit and retain these wildland firefighters?
Thank you, Senator Schiff, and the tens of thousands of firefighters at the Forest Service, at USDA, in our peak seasons, and even now, I think we have close to 1,000 on the ground in your home state. I am 100% behind ensuring that we have the best firefighters, the best workforce that we can possibly have to fight these fires. I need to learn more about exactly what it is you're speaking about before a full commitment, but I will commit to this, that in all of my time with President Trump and the 8+ years I've been beside him in serving in his administration and answering the call for this position if confirmed, that he too believes that those who are putting their lives on the line every single day deserve the honor and the respect and the pay that goes along with those jobs. So I look forward to working with you to ensure as we move forward that that is happening in the most appropriate way.
I appreciate that. Let me turn to a different topic. During the president's first term, USDA had to allocate tens of billions of dollars to offset the financial impact of the tariffs and the reciprocal tariffs that other countries imposed on our agriculture and on our farmers. But that financial assistance offered to farmers impacted by the trade war was not equally distributed. Despite California's leading role in U.S. agriculture and the heavy tariffs imposed on specialty crop exports, California growers receive far less than their fair share in tariff assistance under the 2019 Market Facilitation Program. Out of hundreds of specialty crops grown in the U.S., only 8 crops received direct assistance, and in the end, approximately 1% of the nearly $15 billion in USDA allocated resources went to California specialty crop growers, so about 1%. And as you know, we're the leading state when it comes to specialty crops. If confirmed, are you committed to distributing all economic assistance, including trade relief, to states without regard for their political leanings?
I am committed to that. I think Senator Slotkin, you and even you and I discussed the specialty crops in Michigan when we met. I look forward to, I'm not familiar with the data that you laid out, but I look forward to learning more about that and being committed to ensuring that to the very, very best of our ability that this is appropriately adjudicated.
I appreciate that. I look forward to working together to make sure that that relief, if it should be necessary, is distributed equitably.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Tuberville.
Coach,
Coach.
thank you very much. Ms. Rollins, who'd ever known? 30 years ago, I'm a young coach at Texas A&M, and you're student body president.
That's
First
true.
time we met. Yep.
And we sat next to each other in lots of meetings. That's exactly right.
And look where we're at now.
I know. It's an amazing world.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're going to be awesome.